Hi everyone, welcome to my blog post, and my name is Ayodele Ogebu. Here is a summary of what I have learned in the EC&I 832 Digital Citizenship and Literacy course that was taken by Dean Chareski in fall 2024. The course basically has been eye-opening for me in quite a lot of areas, and taking this course has really enhanced my understanding of the complex interplay that exists between technology, education, and societal issues, particularly through the lens of media literacy. As a newcomer planning to find my way into the classroom here in Canada, particularly in Saskatchewan, I find this knowledge very valuable, in comprehending the broader goals of technology integration in education to be far beyond subject matter instruction, but also to include the development of students' digital skills and citizenships, preparing them to navigate the world of technology. This module actually covered a lot of this module actually covered a lot of fascinating topics, from exciting potential of AI in education to the serious challenges that were posed by deepfakes, which is actually the first time I'm hearing the vocabulary deepfakes and fake news. um, the course also explored how one can navigate identity in a digital world, the importance of digital citizenship, literacy, and lifelong learning, as well as the ethical considerations that are surrounding technology use. Among the many guest speakers that were actually invited to kind of present, which I had opportunity to sit on their presentation, I would say I was particularly inspired by the presentation of Mike Ribble, Wes Fryer, and Jennifer Castod, and I think also Bonnie Stratz, which I would kind of explore why their presentations stood out for me. Um, I've never thought of the use of technology, in relation to developing elements of digital citizenship or media literacy. My approach to using technology has basically just been for teaching science, but taking this course has actually given me a better understanding of how I can still use the technology I integrate in my science classroom to better develop the skills, digital literacy, media literacy, digital citizenship skills that students need, to be able to thrive in the changing world of technology. Talking about my learning, I would say the first learning experience that took my breath, like that I really gained, was the introduction of being a digital resident and visitor, which I tagged it as the DRNV framework. And thanks to Dean Shareski for this presentation, it was actually a new idea to me, and it really helped me realize how my personal preferences and habits influence my use of technology. Yes, I've always used technology, but I've never related it to me being probably a resident in a particular technology platform or being a visitor. But the first lecture, it really caught my attention, and every time I come across new technologies, I actually ask myself, like, am I using this for personal stuff or am I using this for professional? And I try to look back on how I have continuously used these technologies to know if I'm a visitor and I'm a resident in such world. Yes. Then from there, another learning again that stood out for me was that of Mike Ribble's presentation on digital citizenship. Um, that presentation actually made me think about my personal online behavior and how it can impact my interaction with people. When Ribble explained about the 9 frameworks which is on the digital literacy, talking about e-commerce. Yes, I do a lot of e-commerce, but I have never thought of it as an element of digital citizenship. And that stood out for me, to be sincere. And another aspect of that topic was also when it was referring to digital safety. You know, I just felt that topic was very significant, and I've been thinking around the topic to see how I can integrate it even in the research I do, because sometimes I do most of my research always subject specific, and they are more about the use of technology. But now I've been thinking on how to bring this into the subject specific research stuff that I do. A key aspect of the presentation was that of Fryer. I think this discussion actually caught my attention because it was talking about pedagogy technology, and most of his presentations, or all he discussed about, they were more like STEM oriented to me, because he was looking at how they use crash programming in developing media literacy, how they use coding, how they use um, a lot of softwares and tools like Arduino. These are tools that I'm kind of familiar with, but just like I said with that of Rebel, I did not really relate them to media literacy. So it's like me reflecting on my practice as a teacher educator and seeing how can I use this opportunity to integrate concepts of media literacy, digital citizenship elements into what I do, and not just for it to be focused more on the subject, but also calling the awareness of students and teachers, to kind of know more about this, use these media literacy approaches as a valuable teaching strategy that can help develop critical thinking skills, like interpreting, analyzing, evaluating, referring, explaining, and self-regulatory learning. And coming to digital leadership, this was by Jennifer Castord, and during her presentation, I quite remember well sure she was defining this as using the vast reach of technology, especially the use of social media, to improve the lives, well-being, and circumstances of others. And this definition actually made me realize that my social media experience as an academic is shaped by my reasons for using them and the people I follow. And when she was also talking about digital leadership, one thing that also stood out to me there in our discussion was where she was talking about how can we as educators use our social media platforms or social media platforms to lead students, to guide students, to teach students what they need to know about technology. And this really stood out for me because a lot of educators don't really go into these social media platforms, or probably when they go there it's more for personal reasons. And I think as an academic, for me, it's one way I have been trying now to use to post education content, to post things that teach kids about what they should do, what they know. I also use it sometimes to post some of my articles, and I think that was what Bonnie Stewart was also trying to inspire when she was talking about digital transformation, and exploring how technologies has evolved over the years, how they have influenced our online behaviors. I remember she quite mentioned about how she used Twitter in the early stages when it first came out for academic scholarship, for networking, but because of the changes in Twitter, and she stopped. And that's just about the transformation. Technology changes, it makes people's interest changes, but one thing that is very significant that stood out for me was how we cultivate digital scholarship as academic. and how we make what we do accessible to the public, because not everybody will go to a journal to read. Actually, that actually also speaks to me, because when I came here and we started this blogging thing, I'm like, what is this? I've written a lot of papers, posted a lot of articles, but they are mostly in journals. But using blogging as an avenue to kind of express an idea or express what I've been done in class was a shift for me actually. And I think that still boils down to Stuart's presentation and conversation on how we can make our work as academics to be accessible to the public, and to also kind of foster participatory networks. And that's really stood out for me in her presentation. Another important point from her presentation that I enjoyed was fostering digital literacy in students by acknowledging the limitations that educators' knowledge, and involving them in decision-making process regarding this technology tools could use. Yes, that was that about the presenters. Talking about the discussions from the class, yes, it was quite interesting. I learned a lot from all my colleagues, but I think those that stood out for me was, this was the first time I was going to hear something about deepfake. So it stood out completely for me, knowing what deepfake is, and it's a take home. And this deepfake, was just as a result of AI and how misinformations are there. Then I think I kind of was also, more grilled into Miranda's presentation, where she shared the common sense platform with the various curriculums that could be used for digital citizenship lessons. And that stood out for me as well, because I've never had this kind of idea. I've always been teaching at the secondary school level initially before moving to the higher education, and I have never looked at my practice in terms of digital citizenship or this. So this knowledge that was shared really stood out for me, and I found it very helpful that with the help of colleagues and the presenters in the class, I was able to reflect on my practice as a teacher, if I put it that way. And yes, that was my take home from the class. And lastly, I was when we were talking about using social media, how teachers can leverage the various platforms for digital leadership, looking at bonus discussion on digital scholarship, sharing of works. There was also this presentation that was talking about abundance of information. And as a result, I came across an article that talks about the CAT test, which students in digital age can use to kind of evaluate if information is reliable. When we also talk of deep fake, how do we know if those informations are reliable? How do we know if those information are from good sources and things like that? And that was my take home from this course, using the CAT test, encouraging students to be able to check information, check the source, look at the context of the information, ask questions about the content and its relevance to them, and think about how this information fits into what they already know. I think these are critical points that students need to be taught, which I have personally gained and picked in this course. So I just want to say, yes, this is my summary of learning, and with constant information and content in digital age, it's very essential that we teach children to effectively evaluate the credibility and the trustworthiness of content from various media sources. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to learn from my colleagues in this class, and to also take the course under the guide of Dean Shareski. As a new immigrant here, I look forward to working as an educator in Saskatchewan, and I believe this knowledge will help me prepare my students, to become better and responsible digital citizens. Thank you, and thanks for watching.